After receiving an entire season's rainfall in a span of 48 hours, Chennai city has literally been brought to its knees.
For WION, World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Hello and welcome to WION live broadcast from London. I'm Oliver Regan and these are the headlines. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says he will not hold a general election in early May, in the strongest indication yet that the national vote will take place later this year, dampening speculation of an early vote. Health tech boss and Tory donor Frank Hester faces calls to resign from doctors, his firm's main UK clients, after his remarks about lawmaker Diane Abbott, which have been widely condemned as racist and misogynist. Russia begins 3 days of voting in a presidential election that is set to extend the rule of Vladimir Putin by 6 more years. India's poll panel to announce dates for general elections tomorrow for the 543 seats of the lower house and the 4 states expected to vote in April and May. Hamas presents a Gaza ceasefire proposal to mediators and the US, which includes the release of Israeli hostages in exchange for freedom for Palestinian prisoners, 100 of whom are serving life sentences, according to a Reuters report. Rory McIlroy denies any wrongdoing after being involved in a PM Rishi Sunak has said that the UK's national election will not coincide with local polls, as he rules out holding a general election on May the 2nd. And with that, the Conservative leader has put a full stop on a number of speculations. Earlier this year, the British PM suggested that the general election will take place in the second half of 2024. This ignited several rumours in Westminster. The most prominent one was that Number 10 is preparing to dissolve Parliament before the end of March. Reports claim that the UK is unlikely to hold a poll on any other day in May. This is due to the logistical difficulties of organising 2 sets of elections. Earlier, Sunak was reluctant to specify a general election date, but opposition political parties tried their best to provoke Sunak into holding one. Opposition Labour Party claims the Conservatives are afraid to lose the majority of their seats if they enter a poll in May. Sunak must hold a general election by January next year. But the UK Prime Minister has the power to call one before then. In order to do so, the Prime Minister has to first ask King Charles III to shut Parliament. In case Sunak does so, the authorities would need to prepare and hold the general election 25 days later. The Conservative Party is already struggling in opinion polls. They predict Sunak will lose the election. This as Labour maintains a 20-point lead.
Remove over 20,000 people from this country back to their home countries. Carried out 70...
An aircraft carrying UK Defence Secretary Grant Shapps faced technical problems with its GPS signal when it was flying close to Russian territory. According to media reports, the satellite signals were jammed by Russia. The incident took place on Wednesday near Kaliningrad, a Russian enclave in the Baltic. Sources claim there was no danger to Shapps, who was travelling back to the UK from Poland. The GPS signal was interfered for about 30 minutes and the aircraft was forced to use different methods to determine its location. The UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's spokesperson confirmed the incident. They added it's not unusual for aircraft to experience GPS jamming over the city. However, it's still very rare for an aircraft carrying a high-profile figure to witness such forced technical problems. A source quoted by The Times says the Royal Air Force is well equipped to deal with such problems, but it puts an unnecessary risk on civilian aircraft that can potentially endanger people's lives. The Russian Defence Ministry has not commented on the situation yet. It's also unclear whether they were targeting only Shapps' aircraft. According to a study by the Institute for the Study of War, in recent months Russia has increased GPS interference across the Baltic region. There's also a high possibility that the aim of the interference could be to disrupt NATO military exercises. The Russian presidential elections have begun. Polls have opened in the country's Far East for the first of 3 days of voting. Owing to the Russia-Ukraine war, voting is also taking place in the Russian-controlled parts of Ukraine this year. Incumbent President Vladimir Putin is almost certain to win. In the Russian city of Vladivostok, residents were seen posting their ballots at a polling station. Vladivostok is a major port city near the borders of China and North Korea.
We are now electing a president for the country, for the future, and I'm interested in what is being done now, and I would like it to be continued and even improved, because the younger generation must live in peace and harmony so that there is no war.
This year, a remote online voting system will also be available for the first time. Russia's Far Eastern Kamchatka region is taking part in the experimental electronic voting.
Kamchatka will set an example so that everyone can take part in the election, and as a single organism, a united people express their opinion regarding what we want our country to be like in the future, what we all rally around and what we hope for in the future.
Voting is also taking place in parts of Ukraine that are now being controlled by Russian forces. Ukraine says it will not rest until it has ejected every last Russian soldier from those annexed territories. NATO chief also said any attempt to organise elections in occupied regions would be illegal.
So the right to participate in fair and free elections is a fundamental part of any democratic society, but Russian citizens cannot count on freedom and fairness because opposition politicians are dead, in jail or exiled, and the press is not free.
Putin is facing a weak competition in today's poll, since the other three candidates on the ballot are low-profile politicians, and the opposition parties they belong to often agree to the Kremlin's stance. Earlier, two candidates were barred from running. Anti-war activist Boris Nadezhin is one of them, and 71-year-old Putin has already served as president for longer than any other Russian ruler since Joseph Stalin. Opinion polls show he has an approval rating of 85%. The Kremlin says Putin enjoys overwhelming support from the Russian people.
По сути, на автомобиле иностранного производства продолжить такую практику. Хорошо, все это чиновничество наше замечательное, но должно понимать, что нужно стремиться есть. Мы видим и те проблемные вопросы, над которыми нужно работать. Добрый день, спасибо. Садитесь, пожалуйста.
The identity of Bitcoin's creator, known only by the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto, remains shrouded in secrecy. Australian computer scientist Craig Wright's claim to be Nakamoto was definitively rejected by a UK court. Judge declared the evidence against Mr. Wright was overwhelming, stating he did not possess the necessary credentials to be him. Wright's claims to be Satoshi Nakamoto has faced significant scepticism from the cryptocurrency community for years. A crucial piece of missing evidence has been his inability to demonstrate access to the original private keys associated with the first mined bitcoins. This key element would provide undeniable proof of his involvement in Bitcoin's genesis. Back in 2008, a white paper outlining the revolutionary concept of Bitcoin emerged, authorised by the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto. This individual played a pivotal role in launching the world's first decentralised cryptocurrency. Following the paper's publication, Nakamoto actively participated in online forums related to Bitcoin's development until 2011, and then seemingly vanished. Since then, numerous attempts have been made to identify Nakamoto, with Craig Wright being the most prominent claimant. China's ByteDance, owned TikTok, has yet another problem adding to its growing pile of issues. Italy has slapped the social media app with a nearly $11 million fine. Italy's Competition and Consumer Authority, AGCM, has fined the social media giant for algorithmic safety concerns. The competition watchdog elaborated on the reason for the fine in a press release. The company has failed to implement appropriate mechanisms to monitor content published on the platform that may threaten the safety of minors and vulnerable individuals. This content is pre-proposed to users as a result of their algorithmic practices. Well, last year, AGCM opened an investigation into a viral and controversial TikTok challenge called French Scar. The challenge involved users sharing videos of marks on their faces made by pinching the skin. AGCM's investigation found TikTok at fault for failing to monitor and prevent such content. But TikTok is pushing back. The platform released a statement saying, "We disagree with this decision. We long ago restricted visibility of this content to users under 18 and also made it ineligible for the feed." China's government tightly controls the spread of information online and filters social media content it deems politically sensitive. Many Western platforms, including Google, Facebook and Instagram, are blocked from operating in the country. Additionally, TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, operates a separate version of TikTok in China called Douyin.
The bill passed by the U.S. House of Representatives puts the U.S. on the opposite side of the principle of fair competition and international economic and trade rules. If the so-called reasons of national security can be used to suppress competitive companies from other countries, then there will be no fairness and justice at all. This is the logic of a bandit to try every means to snatch good things from others.
Them to share data.
Liverpool have sent a warning to rivals Manchester United ahead of their quarter-final showdown in the FA Cup. The Reds were at their ruthless best as they hammered Sparta Prague 6-1 at Anfield to cruise into the quarter-final of the Europa League 11-2 on aggregate. Well, the tie was virtually over in the first leg. Flew off the blocks with a 10th goal in just 11 games. A minute later, 19-year-old Bobby Clark scored his first senior goal after...
7 years now, 8 years, I don't know, together, 7 and probably, 7 years together with him. So there was one problem we never had was consistency. Mo is just delivering and delivering and delivering. His desire doesn't stop. His quality is anyway there, but then his desire to score just doesn't stop. And he improved in so many aspects since he started here. So that's how it is. He will not stop.
Fast fashion, the trend which provides inexpensive yet trendy clothes, is becoming popular across the world. But the trend is under attack in France as well, the country, the capital of which, Paris, is dubbed the fashion capital of the world. The country's lower house of parliament has passed a bill which seeks penalties on fast fashion products The bill aims to help set off the environmental impact of such brands. The bill seeks gradual rises in penalties on individual items of clothing by 2030. It also bats for a ban on advertising for such products. The bill follows an EU proposal to ban the exports of used clothes to tackle textile waste. The law would particularly impact popular Chinese fast fashion brands like Shein and Temu. Their popularity, thanks to their ability to cater to millions of customers due to the flexible supply chains, has disrupted the retail sector. Contrary to these Chinese brands, established players continue to rely on predicting shoppers' preferences. Reacting to the development, Shein said that its total unsold garments consistently remain in low and single digits, whereas the Chinese firm argued that traditional players see their unsold rate reach up to 40%. Shein added that the bill would worsen the purchasing power of French consumers amid the cost of living crisis. The premiere of upcoming series Palm Royal turned out to be a star-studded affair, with Karen Burnett, Ricky Martin and Kirsten Wiig posting on the pink carpet. We'll leave you